Hi, this is Julie McNeil, and I have Amy Schrader with me today from testing, and we're going to talk about students with disability within the college setting, and we're also going to touch on some mental health along with some Maxient information today. The reason why we have accommodations in college is that colleges must make reasonable modifications to academic requirements as necessary to ensure the requirements do not discriminate on the basis of disability against a qualified person with a disability. Colleges must also make reasonable modifications to ensure the full and equal enjoyment of benefits are offered by the college. For instance, that basketball courts, theater seating, everything has to be made with an accommodation so persons that use a wheelchair, walkers, things like that can get into the buildings. The Disability Resource Center responsibility. What we do is we develop accommodations with students that qualify. We assist students with disability with classroom setup. Also, we act as a liaison between the student and the instructor. We make sure that SFCC is compliant with ADA guidelines such as the facilities, the floor shelves, accommodations to ensure access. Some of the common accommodations that you will see on your page in your course shell. Some of the common accommodations you will see, you might see a note taker, lecture facing forward, additional time on tests and quizzes, the use of a reduced distraction testing environment, a test scribe or test reader, discussion about disability, and so forth. Some of the other things that I want you to take note, if a student has a note taker, they will come up to you with a specific contract and it will state on there what the instructor is supposed to say. For instance, it will say to make this announcement in front of the classroom, and it will say there is a student in the classroom who is in need of a note taker. If anyone is interested, please come forward after class. And so what your responsibility will be is to get that note taker and the student who needs the accommodation together, and then they will have the contract, and then they will fill out the paperwork and bring everything over to me. So your sole responsibility is just to make the announcement and to bring the student together. By chance, if no one comes forward after making a couple announcements, please get a hold of me or have the student come to my office in Yater 159. And sometimes I can come to the classroom and make that announcement. This is a paid note taker position, so all of that information can be relayed to the student once the student comes over to me. Lecture facing forward means that you probably have a lip reader within the classroom, so just be really mindful of writing on the board, and your back is to the classroom while you're talking. Also, additional time on tests and quizzes. That information is also out there on the FAQs if you need help adding that additional time on those tests and quizzes, but usually you will see time and a half or double time on there. The use of the reduced distraction testing environment, that goes hand in hand with the additional time. Students that get the additional time have to set up a test taking time with the testing center, which now is located in Hopkins 714 down in the basement. The test scribe or test reader, that is also set up with the testing center. And as for a reader, if the student actually needs a reader, we have the Kurzweil program set up, and we actually put that on the student's computer. And then also discussion about disability, which you will see quite a bit about. That usually means that the student will come up to you at some time and talk about their disability and how it impacts them in the classroom. It might mean that the student needs extra bathroom breaks, might mean that the student has seizures and is to call 911, but they just want to relay additional information to you in a private setting. Closed captioning. We hope that all videos are closed captioned when you're putting those out there in Canvas. If so, please make sure that they are proofread and that everything is captioning correctly. Also, the use of service animals. Service animals are allowed within the classrooms. They are allowed on campus. Now, ESAs, which is an emotional support animals, are allowed in the dorms, but they are not allowed within the classroom. They're not allowed actually outside of the dorms. So if you have any questions on that, or your student has questions on that, please direct them to me. Also, the enlarged format, handouts on blue paper or colored paper. If you need any of these type of things, we actually pay for anything that you have to have printed, or we also pay for the blue paper. But so far, what I'm noticing is that everything is electronically sent, so the student can actually enlarge it themselves on the computer. But if you need any assistance with printing or blue paper, please see me and I can get that paper for you at no cost. Also, we have a new one, the pregnant and parenting policy. You'll see something maybe called flexible attendance. I also use flexible attendance for another accommodation, but on our pregnancy and parenting students, this is regulation 2112. Students that are pregnant, going to deliver, have a very specific accommodation, and also if they are the father attending, they have the same accommodation as well. At any time, if you have a student come forward and tell you that they are pregnant, you can definitely direct them to my office. I can go over that entire regulation with them. I will also follow up with an email to you with the regulation, and we can work together on getting this student through your class. Also, accessible content. Course navigation should be consistent and easy to follow. We have students using computers that talk to them. The student may be visually impaired or blind. So try to avoid placing multiple folders inside modules because the computer will actually read everything that the student clicks on. Also, please try to remember to use common names for course content, such as PowerPoint, Chapter 1, or PDF document. When creating or selecting video audio content for your course, be sure to include a transcript or a closed caption for your student. Formatting content. I highly encourage you to set your font as Times New Roman or Calibri. If we have a student that has dyslexia, it's really hard for them to read any other type of format. Also, if you have someone that might be colorblind, try to avoid certain fonts, highlighting, or making colors in your shell, because someone that is colorblind usually sees gray. And so if you're asking a student to go to a highlighted section, they're not going to be able to see that. Try to avoid using italics, cursing, things like that, and make sure that your font is at least 12, 14, or 16. You might ask, how do I find my students' accommodations? They are located in your faculty tab under My SFCC. And then you will see the student's name, and next to the student's name will be accommodations. We actually used Rowdy Roadrunner as our student. You see the student ID for Rowdy, and then right next to it is listed accommodations. You click on the word accommodations, and you will see position lecture facing forward, note-taking, priority seating, additional time, and the reduced distraction testing environment. Now, the student has the right to pick and choose which accommodation they want for their class. So when I set up these accommodations, I highly encourage the student to talk to you about which accommodations that they want for their class. So when you receive this email, if you are okay with these accommodations, you can feel free to write me a comment, or you can just hit the submit button. I will receive an email letting myself know that you have read and that you fully understand the student's accommodations. But just please keep in mind, for example, if the student has additional time and a half on tests and quizzes, the student must come up to you and say, hey, I want my accommodation used for all of my tests and quizzes. Otherwise, you are to test the student as normal within the classroom. We also have test proctoring forms that Amy is going to talk about further.
Also on your faculty tab, in the bottom of the center channel, you will find the student success team located there, where you will find all of the everything related to testing. The test proctoring form is there, and you can find a little helpful guide to the accommodated testing times. So if a student has double time or time and a half, it does all the little calculations for you. So if you click on that test proctoring form, it will open a fillable PDF. It does work best in Firefox, but you can open that up and fill that out, and it will allow you to fill out that test proctoring form. All accommodated tests proctored by SSTC staff on all of our campuses does require a test proctoring form. We do like to see those tests and those test proctoring forms delivered to the testing center or the test proctored and extended site at least 24 hours prior to the testing appointment. That way we know we have them ahead of time to check that off for our students. If needed for an accommodation, you must ensure you send your exam to the copy center for enlargements or colored paper ahead of time. So if your student needs that enlarged copy of the test, or if they need it on a different color paper, please make sure you allow enough time to send it to the copy center to get that taken care of before it comes to us, so that we don't have to go searching for it. This is a copy of the test proctoring form that you would find on my SFCC. It does have hyperlinks up at the top after you fill it in, so you can send it to whichever campus that you need it to. And if you need it to send to us, you can drop it in information pickup. The link in the U drive is there. If you're on the Sedalia campus, we do have a gray drop-off box in the mail room, and we do check it each morning by 11:30 so that we can pull those out of there. It is a secure drop-off. It is locked with a key, so your exams are not just hanging out in the middle of everywhere. We can scan your email your exams back if they're complete. So if you fill out the pickup box at the top of the form where you don't want to pick it up, if you don't want to come visit us, we will scan and send them back to your email address. And then we still keep a hard copy for the remainder of the semester if you need to retrieve a Scantron, or if you want to come get the scratch paper for a math test, for example, to double check work or anything of that nature. We do request that you allow students enough time to schedule their exams with, especially if it's a student with a test reader or a scribe. If that student needs a test reader, we need enough time to make sure that we can get it into the test reader. Sometimes the test reader doesn't always read every word perfectly, so we do have to do some work on the back end of that, or maybe we need to reschedule the test if they have a human scribe. We may need to have some flexibility in that scheduling. If you're giving your class a test at 10 o'clock in the morning, we may not have a scribe available at 10 o'clock in the morning. So please allow us some flexibility with that. And then when we schedule your tests here on the Sedalia campus, we are going to schedule that test with an Outlook appointment from the testing center calendar. We do ask that you accept or deny that appointment. That doesn't mean we need you to be present. That means we need you to say that that's an acceptable time to give that test. And so when you deny that appointment, that means we're not supposed to give that test on that day or that time, and we expect you to follow up with that student to help us understand why they can't take that test, or that you want them to come back and reschedule. And then we do have to keep the test proctoring forms for 3 years, 3 academic years. So if you have any questions, we should have a form for you to double check.
Just want to go over some housekeeping and reminders on campus. We do have visually impaired and hearing impaired students on campus, and it's really hard to hear some of the new cars that are out there or see those cars that are out there. So just be really mindful of driving through campus, and especially over by the res halls. We don't want to accidentally hit anybody. Also, Regulation 2112, that is the pregnant and parenting regulation. You can actually go out there under our SFCC regulation and policies to review that. If anyone would like a copy of that, I'm happy to send that out. But anytime I have a student that falls under this regulation, you will get a very specific email along with a copy of that regulation, just to let you know what the regulation is and how we are working with those students. Also, we have what's called temporary accommodations. That is going to be for a student that might be undergoing surgery, might get hurt in an accident, they might have several doctor's appointments, or they might need a scribe. They have to have surgery because their arm is out of commission, things like that. So we do have things in place for students that might come up to you and say, hey, I'm having surgery, I'm going to be out, or I'm not going to be able to take notes. There's all kinds of things that we can implement. It's just that the student needs to come to me in a timely manner and not the day of the surgery. Also, I have an FAQs for common questions regarding accommodations out there under the faculty tab. I've put together a lot of questions that are going to be really helpful for you, such as, can I implement accommodations without seeing the word accommodations on my course roster? And the answer to that one would be no. Never implement your own accommodations, or never implement accommodations without having that student have to come to my office. Students have to meet with me every semester to implement those accommodations. Also, I want everyone to know that a lot of students are suffering from mental illness at this time. We have counseling resources available for our students. You can always recommend me. I do counseling in person. We also have CMU. Now their services are through Zoom, and you see a lot of information out on the bulletin boards. It's also out there on our SFCC Cares website. Our SFCC Cares website is available 24 hours a day. It lists 800 numbers. If students want to talk to a counselor 24 hours a day, and it gives very specific phone numbers if they're suicidal. They have that phone number out there. They also have places for the LGBTQ community if they want a very specific counselor that specializes in that area. All of that is available. We also have the Ask, Listen, and Refer information out there. And I encourage all of you to take that, and maybe you already have when you were hired at State Fair, but it just kind of breaks down on how to just be able to sit and listen to somebody who might be thinking about suicide and just kind of lend an ear. It does not mean that you are taking the place of a counselor. It does not mean that you are responsible, but it just kind of helps you be more comfortable listening to somebody. And then that way you can better make a referral and get that person to a counselor. Also, don't forget, if we have students in need, we have the ability to make community referrals. That student would just come over to me. I have a lot of phone numbers, a lot of people in the community who I can make confidential referrals to. Some of you may have heard the term maxient or incident report. We have a reporting system, and we actually call it maxient. It's located under the SFCC homepage. You'll see it circled there. This is for reporting any type of concern, odd behavior that you feel that we need to look into a little bit more. And you can also use this for counseling referrals. When filling out this report, make sure you fill it out completely and only state the facts. Never give your opinion, your diagnosis, other things like that other than the facts, because this can be turned into a legal document if ever needed to. We also have Starfish. Some of you may be more acquainted with Starfish, but you can also do a counseling referral that way too. When you click on whoever you want to receive that report, if it's for counseling, it comes directly to me. And then, of course, if it's a navigator concern, you just click on your navigator. But any type of incident, behavior, things, I would highly recommend that you go through the maxient form there. That way it bounces right to our dean and or myself or whoever else that you have selected for that concern. And they are reviewed within the 24 hours. Now, if it is an immediate emergency or something that you need addressed, you can always contact the dean. You can dial 911 if needed, and we also have our safety and security Curtis here on campus for those immediate needs. Like I was saying earlier, on the SFCC Cares, you can find that information under the Safety and Security tab, and just to reiterate on the SFCC Cares, you can find that on the SFCC Safety Security tab. You can find it under Safety Links, and then also on this page, you can find the Student Concern and Incident Report as well. You can also find our information on SFCC Cares on this website view. Any student or parent can go to our website. They can type in counseling services. They can type in disability services. I have a page set up for both. Now the SFCC Cares, they have their own webpage as well, where all of those phone numbers are in there in case it's the middle of the night and they want to talk to a counselor that is available 24 hours a day. I'm located in Yater 159. My email address is jmcneal, the number 1, at sfccmo.edu if you have any questions. And my phone number is 660-596-7293. Feel free to contact me at any time if you have any questions.
And my name is Amy Schrader, and we are in the testing center in Hopkins 714. The easiest way to catch us is by emailing testing, testing, at sfccmo.edu. housekeeping.edu.